Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump can hold a bilateral meeting during the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur. Now, Malaysia has informed India that President Trump will visit the Malaysian capital for the Summit of ASEAN and East Asia leaders from 26th to 28th of October, in what could mark the first meeting between the two leaders since the stalemate over trade tariffs. A possible meeting has opened a gateway for India to pursue bilateral talks on the sidelines of the summits. Now, while there has been no official announcement about Prime Minister Modi's travel to Malaysia, preparations are underway. There has been no official announcement from the US side either on Trump's travel plans, but it is understood that a lot would depend on the trade talks for which a delegation would be in the United States in early to mid-October. Now, this apart from the crucial Bihar elections are also scheduled for November, and the October engagements there could also weigh on Prime Minister Modi's schedule to Malaysia. A likely meet between Modi and Trump has been in the works since the US and India resumed negotiations on a trade deal that had stalled over the imposition of tariffs and Indian purchase of Russian oil. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar in New York last month on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly session. Now, notably, former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, in a video message in September, had urged that Anwar Ibrahim-led government to withdraw the invitation to the US over its support for Israel's actions in the Gaza region.
Reach the stage when they are.
Now, joining us on the broadcast is our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibbal. Well, Siddhant, now if Prime Minister Modi and President Donald Trump do end up meeting on the sidelines of ASEAN Summit, what do you think are going to be the key priorities over there? Now, in the news is that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump could hold a bilateral meeting during the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur. Well, Malaysia has informed India that President Trump will visit the Malaysian capital for the summits of ASEAN and East Asia leaders from the 26th to the 28th of October, in what could mark the first meeting between the two leaders since the stalemate over trade tariffs. A possible meeting has opened a gateway for India to pursue bilateral talks on the sidelines of the summit. Now, while there has been no official announcement about Prime Minister Modi's travel to Malaysia, preparations are underway. There has been no official announcement from the US's side either on Trump's travel plans. But it is understood that a lot would depend on the trade talks for which a delegation would be in the US in early to mid-October. We are connected with our Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibbal. Now, Siddhant, I wanted to understand that if Prime Minister Modi and President Trump do end up meeting on the sidelines of the ASEAN Summit, what do you think is going to be on the agenda? What are the key things on the agenda that they can discuss?
Well, first of all, the chances of both leaders meeting is still in the realm of speculation. Both sides, New Delhi and Washington, D.C., haven't confirmed the visits or, of course, any meeting as well. But this could be the chance where both leaders can not only meet but see a reset. Now, what are the ifs and buts when it comes to any meeting? First, of course, Donald Trump's own unpredictability. Remember G7 summit in Canada, where he had cut short the summit and he had left the Canadian location where the summit was taking place. India has its own domestic issues as well, agendas as well, including the upcoming elections in Bihar. And of course, we know that before that there are concerns particularly related to how the trade talks trajectory goes, and also when it comes to Trump's pro-Pakistan stance. Now, if both the leaders meet, the focus, of course, clearly will be on resetting the relationship. The relationship has seen a downward trajectory ever since Donald Trump imposed 50% tariff on India, of which 25% tariff was because India has been importing Russian energy. And adding insult to the injury, we have seen commentary by Mr. Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and other top Trump administration officials. And the US government, Trump himself reaching out, having conversation with the Pakistani leadership. Just last week, he hosted the Pakistani Field Marshal and the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and have praised them also just recently as well. So there are several ifs and buts which goes into when it comes to the upcoming conversation, if it happens on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit in Malaysia.
Absolutely, Siddhant, and while there are enough ifs and buts to be navigated to see how the situation will unfold. Now, given the recent strain over the US tariffs on Indian exports and the shift in global alignment, how significant do you think this bilateral could prove in resetting the US-India ties going forward?
Well, it will for sure, if both the leaders have an in-person meeting, will give a trajectory to the relationship. But I believe the damage has been done by Donald Trump's actions, both by the imposition of tariffs and also the commentary by his officials. Now, one thing is for sure that both sides will be making sure that they pick up the pieces, whatever have been left of it, and making sure that there is an early conclusion of the trade deal as well. We saw how last month there was a trade team in Delhi. The Indian Trade Minister Piyush Goyal was in Washington. It was quite a hush-hush meeting that happened here in Washington. We also saw the Indian External Affairs Minister meeting his counterpart, Mr. Marco Rubio, and both the Indian Prime Minister Modi and the US President Donald Trump having telephonic conversation as well. In fact, on 17th, we saw, on the eve of his birthday, on in fact 16th, we saw the telephonic conversation happening, and the US President extending his greetings to the Indian Prime Minister on his birthday. So yes, there are green shoots of recovery in the relationship, and if a meeting happens on the sidelines of the Malaysia summit, it could for sure provide the impetus in the relationship.
Absolutely, Siddhant. Of course, we'll have to wait for any official confirmation of the same. But for now, thank you so much for getting us the details. That was Assistant Editor for Foreign Affairs, Siddhant Sibbal, joining us from New Delhi.